Trauma is a good thing when it provides you with opportunity to be different. We've heard the word trauma thrown out like a buzzword. Oftentimes, everything gets labeled as trauma. I want to talk about trauma that has created immense pain in your life. That wasn't just a broken arm and you heal 12 weeks later, but rather something that has been debilitating you for years, that still lingers, that still occurs when you go to sleep, still occurs when you wake up, still occurs when you have a relationship with a man or a woman, and you feel this immense pain, this immense uncertainty, this immense hurts that you want to get away from, but you're not really sure how to break free from. I want to offer tools that will help you to endure the trauma that you have experienced and not live it out in your present day circumstance. A lot of us are living out our present day in the trauma of our past. We can't even live in the moment because we're so used to the pain of yesteryear. We're so used to the pain of how our mom or our dad weren't there for us. And so we live in a modern day segment of life where we just cannot be free. It's difficult to be free because the only thing we know is what it's like to be chained. The only thing that we know is what it's like to be shackled. So how could we possibly break free of this trauma that's held us so tight for so long? I want to offer the opportunity to break free from trauma and that you don't live the way that maybe your parents raised you or the way that you were debilitated from a very young age. There's some deep-rooted pain that's not even in you necessarily that you've experienced, but through your bloodline, through generations. The Bible talks about this. It communicates that the sins of the father will be on the third and fourth generation, which means that you might be in that third or fourth generation if you have not taken the keys and said, the buck ends here. It ends with me. I'm drawing a line in the sand of who I'm not going to be and have defined who I am going to be. We might have trauma that is debilitating and painful and hurtful. You can change. You can be different. You can decide something different than what you were given. You don't have to stay the way that you have been established. God can redeem the script. God can change your heart. God can change your mind and your emotions. If we have truly been crucified with Christ, then we can truly be changed creatures here on this earth. We don't have to live the way our parents lived. We don't have to live the way our friends lived. We can be the change that we want to see. If we want to heal our trauma, we have to be humble. We have to accept the reality of what has occurred. Let me give you an example. Growing up for me was not exciting. It wasn't something that I was overjoyed with. Often, many days, I thought that not living on this earth would be better than being on this earth. I saw some things in my life that were very debilitating. My earliest childhood memory was when I was 6 years old. My dad was on drugs. He picked me up. My mom and my brother were screaming at him to say, "Put him down." Because my dad had thought that I was an intruder, that I was going to kill him, that I was going to harm him, because he was under the influence of crack. That memory is something that is so embedded into my mind. It created fear, concern, worry. Biggest one of all, is there something wrong with me? Everyone from a very young age is asking the question, do I have what it takes? And in that moment, what I had was pain, hurt, woundedness. What I had was fear, concern with who I was. Now, any 6-year-old boy is just discovering the world. They hardly know who they are. They're finding out what is life like. And what are you teaching a 6-year-old boy when you're on drugs? What are you teaching him about himself when you make him think he's an intruder, that he's someone to be feared? The boy then internalizes that message, there must be something wrong with me. I lived a lot of my life with this idea that I am the problem, which that is why I'm not able to receive the love I'm longing for from my dad, from my mom, from my brother, from my friends. I lived this life thinking that if there's something wrong with me, that means I have to change who I am based upon the circumstance of people that I'm around. This led me then into friendships and relationships where I became someone I was not, expecting them to stay around, but then they left And I never understood why, because I thought I became the thing that they wanted me to be. So what happened in that moment at 6, I could not understand, right? I couldn't see. That was a defining moment, but there's a lot more moments that occurred that I won't get into in this video. But there was a lot of moments that led me to the point where there was got to be something wrong with me, which is why I can't get the love that I'm longing for, which is why I can't get people who want to stay around and be in my corner and then leave at the drop of a hat. It's why that if I'm with a woman, whatever I did was not enough. And I was living out trauma in my present day. How I would define it was a roller coaster. There was moments where it felt calm and kind of soothing and like, oh, things are going good. And oh, there's the crazy. Oh my gosh, I'm literally living out the very thing of my childhood. Well, so how do you break free? You got to be humble. Because you got to come to an understanding that you say, okay, God, I got this brokenness. I got this pain that keeps hitting me hard. A lot of people, what they did in my life when they would see the wrongs that I would did, because I made some wrongs. I cannot by any means say I was a saint along the way of my first 22, 23 years of life. Like, I definitely had my error. I did things that were wrong. Often what people did though, and I say this in the most loving way, but often people around me within church, what they did was not love me and show care for me to know who I was. They judged me. Oh, that sinner. Oh, Jacob, that leader over there who's struggling with sin. I don't want to spend too much time here on people around me, but if they would have come to know me, they would have understood why I was doing a little bit of what I was doing. Because I didn't even know what I was doing, right? I didn't realize that a lot of my trauma was the influencer of why I was doing what I was doing. I didn't know who I was, so I was doing things that I thought that's what I was, but I wasn't. I became this bona fide nice guy. I became this person that blended in with the environment that I was around, because clearly in the environment of my home as a young boy, I was not as myself, I was not safe. So I tried to find ways to become safe. And the reason why I'm sharing humility as an important step is because you have to come to a place where, God, I need you to show up in these moments that are painful and hurtful and reveal yourself in them. Past pain can perpetuate itself into your present day and holds you like this. You just cannot, no matter how much you try to break it. And see, that's where the humility comes. You just slowly and slowly let go. You say, God, I have this pain when I was 6, 12, 35, 70. I give it to you. There's something about giving something away and being open-handed that allows you to receive something in return. I can't ever change what happened when I was 6, when I was 12, 20. But what I can do is I can give it to the Lord. And I can say, hey, God, I have this pain. It still lingers here. Oh, God, here I am, broken, in need of your hope and in need of your love. It's important that you see your deepest need is Jesus. We try to go to the friend, to the job. We try so many other things when there's one thing that's constant. In the Word of God, Jesus said that He came for those who are broken, those who are hurting, those who are lame, those who are in need of a physician. The ones who are hurting are the ones that Jesus can truly heal. It is when you recognize the deepness of your pain, the deepness of your hurt, that God can truly work. Remember in my life, when I realized how deep my trauma was, as I was coming out of a relationship with somebody that I dearly loved, someone that I thought I would spend my life with, someone that I gave my virginity to. And in this relationship, it taught me a lot about the brokenness of my soul and how I thought love was supposed to be. And in a lot of ways, I lived out my childhood in this relationship. So it was fearful. It was uneasy. It was uneven. The tools that I had just were not enough to sustain it. Remember, I came to the end of this relationship. I was sitting before a counselor. He shared with me that just kind of gave me an aha moment was, do you want a ticket back on the roller coaster? And my mind just clicked. Something in me just went, oh my gosh, I get it. The roller coaster was the continuation of my childhood was being lived out with this person. I was allowing, and I was also co-creating what I felt about me. It was a humbling moment to go before a counselor and say, hey, I am broken. I am hurting. In the midst of difficult circumstances and hard topics to discuss, this counselor became Christ to me. He provided me with a safe place to share my deep feelings, my deep hurts. And so I had a person that helped me along the way. But it wasn't him that healed me. It was my relationship with God that healed me. He gave me tools along the way. It's important that we recognize that God is the one who is the establisher of all things. God is the one who has given us opportunity here on this earth to meet people, to come along our path. Jesus says that you fed the least of these and you were feeding me. So like we meet from time to time people who are reflections and image bearers of the Lord. They may not have the fullest picture of what it looks like to be a full-fledged follower of Christ, but they've got something in them that can truly change you. And because I have this experience, it truly changed me. But it took humility. It took saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know why I keep living out this life the way that I do. I don't know why I keep going to places and spaces where I'm undermining who I am. I'm going below the limits of what I could potentially live. But it was stemmed from my childhood. And today, now you're looking at a man who's very different. I still have some wounds. I still have some battles that I'm working through. There's still moments in my life where past things come up and I'm like, dang, that is just so sad. It grieves me. But what's so important when these moments come up is I'm reminded how much he has done within me in spite of all the things that had occurred to me. Can you remind yourself of that today? Can you remind yourself about how much God has still done even in the midst of all the bad that you have done? Even with all the pain, all the hurt that you've put on others, God has still used you to bring forth life and love and hope to those who were in need of it. And now today, I'm married, I have a baby, another baby on the way at any moment. I have a second son coming. God has done a redemptive work in my life. I would not be the man I am today if it was not for my faith. And I believe trauma can be healed with this key step of humility. I believe that if you allow yourself the opportunity to just submit yourself to the Lord, say, God, here I am with my brokenness. Here I am with my hurt. Here I am with my pain. I lay it at your feet. Oh, Jesus, would you just come? Would you just come in this moment and cleanse me and redeem me? Would you restore me back to the Garden of Eden where there was this love, there was this hope, there was this joy? Because there's many moments, oh God, that I have not experienced it, but now I want to experience it with you and your son. It's offered to all of us. Did I also share in my story that I come from generations of alcoholism, drug addiction, fornication with women that were not their wives? And here I am today living differently. Not saying I don't have temptations by any means, but I am saying that God has done a redemptive work and he can do a redemptive work in you. Don't let your trauma define you. Let your Lord define you, and let him help you go back to the traumas of your past so that in the present day you can walk differently and that you can have 1,000 generations blessed after you because you decided to make the decision that I will not let this trauma define me, but rather I will let my God define me, and I will live in the way that he has called me, which is to be loved, which is to be hopeful, and which is to be full of faith for him and his kingdom.